Hey everybody, this is Colin from Studio 1405 at Poplar Creek Public Library. This is the second lesson in our Home Recording Basics series. In this lesson, we will discuss the gear necessary to run your own home studio, as well as setting up your own acoustic space for a proper listening environment. Depending on your setup, you will have different resources available for your home studio. You can make great recordings with just a phone and a pair of headphones, but there is technology available to greatly enhance your recording quality. If you're looking to start investing in your home studio, let's talk about where to start. How you decide to invest depends on your budget, so let's go over some different options. The first item to consider is your computer. If you don't have that, many of the other items on the list won't be of much use to you. That being said, if you want to record without a computer, you could consider investing in a portable recording device that can run independently from a computer. I would recommend checking out the Zoom H4n Pro, which has great audio quality on its attached microphone, 2 XLR ports for external microphones, and multi-track recording capabilities for overdubbing. If you want to go the standard digital route for recording, I would invest in a good computer. Whether you're recording on Mac or PC, there are certain specs that you should try to strive for. That includes at least 16 gigs of RAM, an i7 quad-core processor, and a 128 gig solid-state drive. If your computer has lesser specs than this, you could still record, but you may run into some crashing and latency issues, as well as painfully slow processing speeds. I am currently running a MacBook Pro that is 8 years old and is still able to handle music production at high processing speeds. You don't need a top-of-the-line computer to handle basic music production. A somewhat optional but extremely useful piece of equipment for your studio is an external hard drive. Audio project files can get pretty massive, and depending on how much music you make, will fill up the memory on your computer quick. Whenever I finish a project, I unload all of my project files onto an external hard drive to clear out space on my computer. As you are looking for entry-level microphones, you will see options for USB or XLR microphones. Let's clarify the difference. Standard microphones use what's called an XLR cable. This is a cable that transfers audio at mic level. Computers are not able to accept XLR cables. That audio needs to be transformed into a digital signal that the computer can interpret. This is what a USB interface does. It does a series of things actually, but most importantly, it transforms your audio signal into a digital signal that can be sent to your computer via a USB cable. Some microphones are made to skip this step entirely. Rather than sending an audio signal, the microphone has an audio-to-digital converter built into the microphone, which allows it to send a digital signal straight to the computer. This allows you to record without an interface, which is less expensive and more convenient, but also has its drawbacks, including a sacrifice in audio quality. USB microphones can be great for voiceover work or podcasting. If you know you're only going to be using one microphone, a USB mic might fit your needs perfectly and save you time and money. If you're looking to develop a home studio, I would recommend purchasing only XLR microphones, as they will work across multiple platforms and be a better investment in the long run. We will talk more about microphones in the next lesson, but for now I will recommend a few options. For USB microphones for podcast recording, I would check out Blue Microphones. They make the Snowball, Ice, and Yeti microphone. The Blue Snowball was the first recording microphone I purchased, and it suited me well for a long time. It has 3 recording modes, which allow for great versatility in recording. Blue has since released a less expensive version of this microphone, the Ice, with a single recording mode that will save you money if you don't need the extra features. I also know quite a few podcasters who use their Yeti microphone with great results. For recording vocals and acoustic instruments, I would check out the Audio-Technica AT2020. There are quite a few cardioid condenser microphones on the market, and at this price point, I haven't found anything that beats the AT2020. For recording acoustic instruments, amplifiers, drums, vocals, and pretty much everything else, I would recommend getting an SM57. This is my single most used microphone in the studio, and come to think of it, probably the single most used microphone in the world. They've been around since the 60s, and can record anything from drums to amps to vocals. Once you have a microphone, you'll need an interface. Like I mentioned before, this works as an audio to digital converter, translating your audio signal into a digital signal that your computer can read. It also acts as a preamplifier or preamp for your microphone, amplifying the signal before it is sent to the computer. Most interfaces have gain knobs on them that will allow you to control how much of the signal is being picked up. With the gain knob all the way down, you will not receive any signal from the microphone. With the gain knob all the way up, you will likely receive too loud of a signal, resulting in a distorted or blown out sound. Always err on the quieter side when recording. You can always turn up a low signal, but you can't undistort a signal that is too loud. The USB interface that I would recommend for entry-level recording is the PreSonus Audio Box 96. PreSonus has great sounding preamps and reliable hardware. On the lower end of the market, interfaces tend to distort or color the audio as it passes through them. I was really surprised to hear what nice transparent sound these PreSonus units have. This item also has a few features that will be very useful in recording, including 2 XLR 1/4-inch hybrid ports, individual knobs for each input gain, phantom power that will be used for many condenser microphones, as well as individual gain knobs for headphones and speakers. Speaking of headphones and speakers, a good set of headphones are indispensable in the studio. When considering speakers and headphones for recording purposes, there are a few things to keep in mind. Frequency response. When you are recording and mixing music, you are creating a product that will be played in many environments, including cars, headphones, laptop speakers, etc. Because of this, you will generally want to record and mix on speakers and headphones with a relatively flat frequency response, meaning they recreate frequencies equally across the audio spectrum. One pair of headphones that does this particularly well for studio purposes are Sony MDRs. They have been an industry standard since the 90s, and for good reason. Most music we listen to has a boosted low end, meaning the bass frequencies sound more prominent in the mix. On Sony MDRs, the bass is relatively equal in volume to the mids and highs, giving the rest of the frequency spectrum an intense clarity. I've worked on mixes that sounded fine until I listened to it on MDRs and realized how overly bright and brittle the mix was. That being said, if you are mixing bass-heavy music, MDRs might not cut it for you. You could easily overmix the bass, trying to compensate for the MDR sound. For something a little more pleasant and bass-oriented, I would check out Beyerdynamics DT770 Pros. They are extremely comfortable and have a pleasant sound with great bass response and a wide stereo image. The downfall with these headphones is vocals and other elements in the center of the mix tend to sound quieter, so be careful not to overmix the vocals. The best tool you can use in mixing are a pair of near-field studio monitors. Listening on speakers will allow you to hear the audio in its purest form, as well as give you a better idea of how that mix may translate in other environments. Edifier makes a series of near-field monitors at different price points. I've heard them personally, and they don't sound too bad for the price. A little pricier than Edifier speakers are KRK Rocket 5s. You will see these in plenty of videos and studios. The little black speakers with yellow cones. They are relatively inexpensive and have a great sound with an especially beefy bass response. For your first pair of speakers, these are a great tool. Regardless of what you're using, it's important to check your mixes across multiple platforms, such as your phone speaker, your car, or your laptop speakers. I even use a pair of old computer speakers to test how my mix will sound in a less than ideal environment. Pretty much all listening environments will be less than ideal, but let's talk about how we can acoustically treat our room to be best suited for recording and listening. Most home studios are set up in a home office or bedroom, and there are not always a lot of options for where to set up your listening space. If you have the option, try to situate your listening position 1/3 of the way through a room. Try to keep your speakers away from the wall and your listening position away from the center of the room. Both of these factors will create an unnatural bass resonance that will sound uneven and not accurately represent the frequencies coming out of your speaker. When listening from your speakers, it's best to have them equidistant from the sidewalls as well as equidistant from your ears. Imagine an equilateral triangle between your head and your speakers. Point the tweeters at your ears. This is where all of the high frequency information is coming from. If possible, try to isolate your speakers with isolation pads, or better yet, speaker stands. When speakers are placed directly on a desk, frequencies will resonate with the table. Acoustics makes speaker stands that can be placed on your desk to elevate your speakers. For dedicated stands, check out onstage monitor stands. The last item I will mention is acoustic treatment, what works and what doesn't. Most people would assume foam is the best option for sound treatment, but this is not the case. Foam only attenuates high frequencies, and you would need several inches of high-density foam to even do that. Foam you might have seen used in professional studios is placed on a wall that has already been acoustically treated. The best option for acoustic treatment is bass traps. These are panels made of wood and acoustic insulation that trap frequencies across the spectrum, most importantly bass frequencies down to 100 Hz. While pre-made traps can be expensive, they're not too hard to make yourself with a few basic tools. For more information on setting up your home studio, as well as a tutorial on how to make your own acoustic treatment, check out the Linda course, Music Studio Setup and Acoustics. Next week we will be discussing actual recording techniques with a microphone. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.